Hi, everybody. It's Rebecca and
Her wonderful and beautiful husband, Aaron.
you're a beautiful husband. You are quite beautiful.
Mm.
So we thought we would redo the Poshmark sales report workshop that we had scheduled for about a week ago. It turns out we had a lot of sound issues. So we are going to redo it, just the two of us. And hopefully you'll be able to get more out of it and learn all sorts of things about your Poshmark sales report. So, I leave it to you, Aaron.
Oh no, you do the presentation. I do the data.
I just did. All right, so 5 things you're going to learn in this workshop. We are going to teach you how to access your Poshmark sales report, how to understand the report for your own Poshmark closet, how to identify and understand the flaws in the sales data that Poshmark gives you in that report, how to use the Poshmark sales data to your advantage, and advanced tips to grow your Poshmark closet. All right, so how to access your Poshmark sales report. We are going to show you.
Well, you're gonna show because this is your business. I don't get it until you actually send me the nice formatted file.
All right, so we are going to go into Poshmark. This is my Poshmark feed. Up to the right-hand corner, you're going to click on your little face and go down to My Sales. Then from here, you will be able to select the last full year, your year-to-date, or a custom range, which if you want to do all of your data, you would do from the first month and the first date you started selling on Poshmark to today's date. Now, you're going to have it emailed to you. What is going to happen is that report will be emailed to you, but it's not actually emailed a file, it's a downloadable link. So you have to go back into it, download it, log back into Poshmark, and then it's going to show up in your downloaded files in your internet. So where are mine in here? I don't even know.
Did you just say downloaded files on your internet?
Yeah, that's where they show up. Like, see down here at the bottom? Those are my downloaded files.
But that's not the internet. Just so you know.
This is not?
No.
Okay, well
no,
then.
I mean down here. This is just a browser.
Okay, well they show up in your downloads right here.
Yeah.
That's my beautiful face and my new shoe.
Okay.
All right, so that's how you get your report. And when you pull it up, Aaron's going to show you what happens.
Yes. So after you've downloaded it, it will go to somewhere on your computer. Rebecca has a Mac, so it will be downloaded, as she said, to your local drive. I have predefined an area for me to grab her data. I think we called it Aaron's data. We'll see what we find here. If I can't find it fast enough, we'll cut this out, right? Because I had this before. Where are we at here? I think it's under Documents. You get to see all your pictures now. There it is, Aaron Poshmark data. So I've created a folder and put an example file on here. So when you download it, it will show up here. They're usually not very big, and it's a comma separated value document. So it'll come up as a CSV. These will open up directly in Excel. If you don't have Excel, you might have some other kind of spreadsheet tool. It'll open up in there. It's very common. What we're going to show you today is how to open it up in Google Drive and Google Sheets, which is the spreadsheet tool on Google. And we have in our data course, we have a whole section on how to use Google Sheets, but we'll give you a little bit of an overview of that again today. The other thing of note, and I put this here, is that when you download it, it'll be called sales_activity_report. And if you do this multiple times, the way that Windows and Mac will do this, instead of overwriting your old file, it will auto increment a number behind it with a parenthesis. So this is the third time that Rebecca downloaded it, so it has a number 3 behind it. You want to make sure that that happens so that you don't overwrite maybe old files if you happen to do this monthly or yearly, or want to redo it because you picked the wrong range. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this file and we're going to open it up in Google Drive. Now there's a couple different ways, and I'm going to show you one way how to do it. In the data course, we'll show you both ways. So I right-clicked on it instead of double-clicking. I'm going to right-click, hit Open With, and I'm going to do this in a TextPad app. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to show you what it actually is before we beautify it, if that's a word. Is that a word?
I don't know.
It sounds like something you would know. But this is what it looks like. So we just took an example of Rebecca's sales, and the date that she picked for this example, and there's her fun handle for Poshmark, is 7/1 of 2008 to 7/21 of 2018. Or 2018 to 2018, I'm sorry. So that's only about a 3-week period of time. And it also has a set of notes, and then Rebecca has kindly gone through these with me before. I don't know, Rebecca, if you want to go through these again, what they mean by these particular items when they say only completed sales, although on the way down.
So these sales are only sales that have actually been completed and the transaction is finalized with the money in the bank. So any pending things are not going to count on this, and anything like that are only going to be completed items. Bundles are displayed as itemized listings. You can talk about that with your little numbers, your order ID numbers, and what we found out about that. The order price for the bundle item is the listing price minus the bundle discount or the offer discount. So it's the bundle price, which is what shows up. The seller shipping discount shows up as minus $1.50 or minus $6.49, basically, for free or discounted shipping. And net earnings is the price minus Poshmark's cut and your shipping discount.
Fantastic. So what we have here then, obviously the date, who you are, and then it has a couple blank lines, which is what this means. This is the header row, so this tells you what each data element is going to be when we open it up in Google Drive. And then there's a bunch of values, and you can see that they're separated by commas, and that's why they call it a comma-separated value document. There's one other thing that I wanted to show before we open it up in Google Drive, and I'm trying to find one of these zip codes. So you can see the last item here is a buyer zip code. So this is where the buyer was located and where you probably shipped the product. Is that correct? Where you shipped it to?
That's
the buyer zip code. There's one in here I think that you had that was on the East Coast. Do you see it? Do you see it?
You can see it better on your
right
other
here.
form.
No, so it's this one right here. If you look at this one, it's 02879, and we're gonna do this a couple different ways. So what I'm gonna do in order to get it into Google Drive is I happen to have Google Drive open. It's here, and this is what the data will look like when we bring it in. But I'm gonna show you what you do when you first get it in. So I'm going to create a new sheet, and I'm going to call this the raw import. And so you can see it's blank, and then in Google Sheets we have a bunch of cells. So when I come back and I'm going to highlight all of this with my mouse. So I'm going to highlight it all. I'm going to right click and copy, go back to my Google Drive, and I'm going to make this bigger so we get the full impact of the screen. And then I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste. And so you can see it looks very similar to what you saw in that previous screen. Each row is now that text. But you can see this is kind of messy. This data is all still mashed up together. And if you're going to want to do any kind of data analysis or reporting, you're going to have to split this out. So what we're going to do is take this raw data and format it. We're going to take away the header, this information we eventually will end up keeping. And I'll show you down here where I keep the header, but we're going to highlight that entire thing. We'll right click, and at this point I'll copy it and show you and copy it. We'll go to the header page, which I've already done, and there's that header. So we just basically would right click and paste, and there you see that we want to keep that information for later in case you want to remember what period of time that you were dealing with, or any of the other things that they told you about what this was. But I'm going to then, after I pasted it, I'm going to right click and delete it. I don't want to see those anymore. I've saved them in another sheet. And then the totals below I'm going to keep for a little while. And in order to get this to be a nice formatted sheet, I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to highlight that first row. That's where all the data sits right now, even though it looks, because let me show you what it does. It actually is just one big row. So there is nothing over here. But I'm going to set that back. We're going to highlight column A. We're going to type on, hit on the menu called data. And we're going to, there's a selection called split text to columns. You're such a lovely person.
I'm writing you notes
I
because
know.
you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, this is my life. So then what we do is we go to text. We do split text to columns, and it's going to magically go through each one of those rows. It's going to find that comma, and it's going to separate these into the various columns. So now you have this magical footprint that we now see, as opposed to it all being mashed together. Now, one thing I will tell you is that I've been touching that data every once in a while, and so you can see this column down here got kind of pushed together. And so what I'm going to do is make it look better. And Poshmark didn't do this. It was just something that we've been touching this data so much that it those comments didn't format the way we wanted them to. So I'm going to put them into where they're at. So this is what you would have truly seen on there. The commas is what in these numbers is what screwed it up. But now you can see we have all the different columns, the different rows, and then there's this total column. Now, I don't want to keep this total column because when we do some of our reports, it's going to almost double count. So if you sum this, it's going to take each individual item and then it's going to take your total. So what I want to do though is make sure that I copy them in all right, that Poshmark did that. I'm going to go ahead and sum. So I'm going to do a function. I'm hit sum, and it's going to sum everything above it. Now I'm going to go ahead and highlight the rows I want to sum, and I'm going to hit return. And magically you can see that that number matches. So as to do those with the other columns, the seller shipping column and the net earnings, I'm not going to have to do that again. I'm just going to drag it. A little fun tool here, and you can see that they 100% match our total line. Because that's exactly what I wanted to see, I'm going to take those two rows that had the sums and I'm going to delete them, because we will be able to figure that out with other types of calculations later. And I'm going to delete that. So in summary, now we have a nice fun set of data that we can now do reports off of. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like after the fact, after we've done some formatting. And I'm going to walk you through very quickly why I do it this way. And most of it's for the visual effect. When you look at that raw data, yeah, you can tell what's going on. But when we do a little bit of this formatting, we can now see a header row with them in this nice and blue. I picked it because I think that's Rebecca's favorite color.
I do love blue.
Blue, a nice, what would you call that? Navy? That's not navy.
No, it's blue.
No, it's blue. Okay. And then we have what we call filters. So you can see a little, what we call this a drop-down button, and it allows us to sort A to Z, ZA, so ascending, descending, and then even pick individual items that we might want to see. And so it makes it much more aesthetically pleasing, if you will. And I always do that. The other thing I always do is I do what I call a data freeze. A row freeze, which keeps the top column always there. So even if I scroll down, as you can see I'm doing with my mouse, it keeps the header there. So you always remember the context of the rows that you're looking at. And then again, in the data course, we show you how to do all this fun stuff. That being said, we going through the columns, and I'm going to go to this, what I call the data profile. And that's going through all the columns. So Rebecca and I have gone through these columns to understand what they mean, and then some things that are a bit different than if you would go back to the Poshmark interface and say, well, I'm going to match up what I've done. If you went back to Poshmark, there's a couple things that you should know. One of them is that the categories and I've highlighted these in yellow, are different. Now, we haven't gone through every single one of these because Rebecca doesn't sell in every single category, but for jeans and for dresses and skirts, they're different. Denim is jeans, correct?
Yes.
Denim is jeans. So if you go to Poshmark, that's just, you can do a one-to-one relationship there.
That's different, though, than jeans.
It is, well, that's the way they put them in there.
No, I know, but when you look at it at Poshmark, it says jeans. When you pull up the data, it says denim. That's what we're trying to...
Yeah, Rebecca says it better than I do. And then for dresses and skirts, they split them out on Poshmark now. So originally they might have been the same. Wow. Wow, this is an amazing thing that you're seeing. You're not seeing this behind the scenes. Dresses and skirts used to be, it looks like they at one point were the same thing in Poshmark, but they split them out, probably due to user demand, or they just couldn't handle it. So this is a 2-for-1. They clump them here, but they split them on the website. The other thing of note, as we go left to right, Rebecca, listing date versus order date is, what's the difference?
I mean, it's the date you list it or the date someone buys it.
Wow, you're amazing. And if you do what we do in the reports here is that we also do a column that we're gonna do a difference, meaning we're gonna take the date that you sold it, the date you ordered it, and create a column that will tell you how long it sat in inventory. Obviously, the lower the number, the better. And right here, I created a purple column, which is an extra column that did what I would call a verify, because we should never have an instance where we listed something and it sold earlier than we listed it. And again, this is for consistency. It should never be this way. And in Rebecca's 3 weeks that we did, you can see that all her numbers are positive, which is a good thing. We also see some zeros, which means the day she listed it to the day she sold it, which is fantastic for sales. You can see that there's one in there that's 132. So you can see there's quite a bit of range. And when you download your information, that's one of the first things you should look at. The order ID, we found out. Now, this is what is it? It's a 24-digit hexadecimal number. Poshmark uses this as a unique identifier. And what we mean by that is that every order will be unique no matter what did you say? There's 4 million sales on Poshmark or 4 million listings. Think of all the people that are out there, or 4 million people on there. Maybe they have 10 listings. Anyway, there's a lot of inventory out there. This is a way they can keep those numbers unique for them. So when they're tracking them, they have it. They're giving this to you so that you can use it as a unique counter. So, but the other thing this does, and we found out in Rebecca's bigger report, is this is also the way you can group together your bundled items. Am I saying that right? Bundled items? Mm-hmm. So if you sell something, 3 of them, you're going to see the same identifier in there 3 times. Now for Rebecca, this particular 3-week period, she did not do that. So we have a total of 29 rows of inventory from number 2 to number 30. Trust me, that's 29. And when we do a little formula down here called count unique, it says that she has 29 of them, which means she has all orders. And we can confirm that because in column L, there is a bundle order, yes or no, and you can see they're all no's. If you have bundle orders that are Y's, you should see, if you bundled them together, 3 of them together, the way you'll be able to tell which ones were bundled together is that that order ID will be the same for all 3 of those items. 7, 10, 12, doesn't matter how many items, that would be the same number. Listing title should be directly off your listing. I have seen some things in there that would be interesting to pull out. So if you're putting in certain types of features of your products that you didn't put in one of these other columns, like brand or color or size, we can pull those out with some fancy code. So if you had like leather things, or you have polka dots or things that you might want to pull out of your listing title, we can do that in a formula here. Departments, it's women's, men's, and other.
Kids.
Oh, it's kids. So Rebecca right now only has women material or clothes here, but if you do have other listings, they will show up here. Again, we talked about category. Everything else that we've seen has been consistent with the interface. Subcategories, you can start to see now that there's some things that aren't filled in. That's because when you do your listing, these are not required fields, so they won't show up if you don't fill them out. So as you're going through this, and one of the lessons that you might have is if you want to start using this more consistently, or using them all the time, if you want to start to stratify your categories, it would be wise to start to use your subcategory. Same thing with brand. If you're using a brand and it's one of the brands that is a predefined list of brands for Poshmark, it will show up here. I have seen with Rebecca's larger data, there are brands.
Southie was the one that didn't show up.
Yeah, that doesn't. There are brands that are not in their list that are available here. So subcategory has to be a one, but brands, colors, and sizes, you can be typing those in yourselves. They might not match what.
They're custom.
They're custom. so they will not match to the categories. So it becomes a little bit difficult when you do that if you want to try to like kind of roll up your sizes to small, medium, large. But that's something that you guys will have to determine if that's worth your time. So color, size, you can have multiple colors up to 2, correct?
Mm-hmm.
They are separated by commas, and a little trick there, and the reason why, because this is a comma separated value table, why didn't those separate into their own columns? And that is because if we go back for the colors, they put quotes around them. And so that is the magic way that Google knows that this is the same column. It puts quotes around them, but you can see the other things, there are no quotes. So that's just for those data geeks like me, that's one of the things, that's how they know how to do that. Same thing with sizes, but it's always one size, but this could be numbers, this can be text, and I've done some formatting to make it basically left justified. Bundled orders we've already talked about. Offer orders, describe what that is.
Well, if you make an offer to someone or they offer you something, then that's where that shows up. So the ends are full price sales.
Okay. And then as far as order price, that's the price you listed it for. That eventually, that's the price that people bought it for, not what you listed it for, but what you accepted.
The order, yeah, what they actually ordered it for.
Discount shipping is if you just offer discount shipping.
I don't do usually free shipping, so you can see I only have 1, 2, 3, 4 discounted shipping items.
Down below, net earnings then is the difference, right, between the order price and any discounts you had. That's what you make, and then they have the 2-digit code for the state of where the buyer was, and then the don't give me that look. The looks going on here are just unwarranted. Zip code is then the 5-digit zip code. I have seen the dash and the 4-digit subcode in there every once in a while. So it just would look strange to you if you're doing that. And then if you can see what happened here, there's that 10 filled. I filled that one out. This is Rhode Island. You can see it's a 0 number. But if you did the raw import and we go back to it, you can see that the raw import takes it away. And it does that because because these are all numbers, Google thinks this is a number. And of course, you don't 0 fill numbers. So it thought this was a number and took away the 0. So you would have to go back in my cleanup, I have made that a 0. But there are some zip codes that have double zeros. So you have to watch that if you're going to be doing any kind of reporting off of the zip code. And then what I did at the bottom is I also did a line, and this is an orange on purpose because I was going through and determining, how many unique values are in any of these particular columns. So for example, for Rebecca, and I put notes in these as well, comments, but she sold, of her 29 items, she sold to 28 different zip codes. So there's one zip code in there that was there twice. In this particular data set, she sold to 16 different states. Looking at her bigger data, her all-time sales, she sold all 50 states, and then they also split out Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. So for those of you who have a lot of sales, you might see the number 52 and realize that's more than 50 states. There hasn't been any big news there. It's just that they do add those 2 elements, or 2 District Columbia.
Ailments?
Not ailments. Entities there for you. Net earnings, this is the unique amount of numbers, so the way you sell things, if you're always selling things every in increments of 10, so every $10, you can see she sold some things for 40 cents, 50 cents, 60 cents. Again, this is just based off probably the calculation.
It's 20%.
Well, it's 15 minus the
$1.50, yeah.
But it's just unique. If you sell things in bulk or always and over and over again, you might see lower numbers here. Out of 29 things, she had 14 different ways that she collected money. Shipping discounts, there's only 2. Either she gave it a $1.50 discount or 0. Order price, 12 different types of prices. And as you go left to right, again, a lot of different sizes, 14 different sizes she sold, 16 different colors, 21 different brands. So for those of you who have want to know how many different brands you're selling, that's a very quick way to figure that out. Categories, subcategories, all the way to the left. And then you can see even in the listing title that there are some repeating listing titles. Reseller mystery box is in there a handful of times, so that's why it's not 29, it's 25. So that's what your report's going to say. As you go through there, definitely look at your data, make sure it's all lined up correctly, make sure that, again, zero fills, understand the differences in categories, understand the difference, the feature of your order ID, and make sure, again, your listing dates and order dates are in order.
What did you find out when we did this the first time? Someone asked us a question that the order ID, if it's in a bundle, will each item have the same order ID, or even if they're bundled, will they have different numbers?
Right, and if you were not listening to me, you didn't listen, so I should write that on the note. You didn't listen to me when I did this, so when we do the reverb back, you'll have to listen to this.
Okay.
I made that exact point.
Oh, okay.
So thank you for not listening.
Well, I just wanted to actually reinforce
No, thanks.
that.
So we're going to go through just some of the reports that you can generate off of this, and again, in the data course, we will be able to go through this with you. But you can do all kinds of things where you want to know how long is it taking certain items to sell. So that is this column that we talked about doing the difference between the date you listed it and the date that it sold. There's certain items that Rebecca has that take, this one's almost 3 months, over 3 months to sell this. There's other things that she's selling very, very quickly, and in statistics is she has a very long tail, which means there's
I
things
do?
you have a long tail.
Is it fluffy?
Nope, it's pretty straight. Pretty straight tail here. So it's a very skewed where she has one item and then a bunch of tails down here. So most of your sales are coming probably right in this area.
That's good though.
It's good though. You don't want to have a lot of high. You probably have anomalies here.
I think you said my average was 70 days out of everything.
I think but you've been doing this for 4 years, 2015, so 3 years. But yeah, your average is around 70, but one of the things you can do if you have multiple years to start to hopefully see trends where you're maybe early on you're holding on to things too long.
Oh yeah.
But now you're maybe getting better. So that's a good point that you can start to kind of see trends in the way that you're doing things. But this just shows all your items right now looking this way. The other thing you can do is you start getting features that aren't necessarily in the data itself. So because this tracks the date explicitly, we can figure out with a nice formula whether this is on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or what day of the week it is. So you can see that for Rebecca's 3-week period, Wednesdays were very good. Fridays and Saturdays, and actually over the weekends, typically weren't. So if you're seeing patterns where people are buying things during the week and weekends, that would be a good view for you. And then this is the net earnings per day. So over that time period, you can see, her sales, and there's a trend chart. So as you would, look at this over months, over years, you can start to see trends. The other thing of note here is that she's selling things just about every single day. So that's also a good thing that you can see that you're selling things not just in bunches or in like seasonal types of packages.
Unlike my eBay sales, which we can go over that another day.
Okay. So then there's also obviously the geography we talked about. So those last two columns. So in the data course, we'll show you how to create these more geographic and mapped courses. So you can see the different states that Rebecca sells in. The green means they're more profitable than the reds, but it doesn't mean the reds don't mean they're non-profitable. It just means they're not as profitable. And then down here, because we have zip codes, Google will allow you to get down to the zip code level and even down to the little intricate states and where they're sitting on the individual states. As far as by region, I created a lookup table. So I found out you can just find a really quick lookup to say where do these states, where do they kind of cluster. So Midwest, Great Lakes, Far West. And so this is just a different way to look at that data to say where am I selling my stuff. So she sells very well in the Southeast and the Far West. Midwest, a little bit low, and then these other ones, not even enough to even register a label on the graph. And then a last one that we'll look at is the sizes and colors. So this one is, again, you can look at breakdowns. So we've created a table that will map the Poshmark, the detailed sizes to more of a standard maternity plus juniors mapping. So this kind of rolls them up, so it's easier for you to see maybe trends of if what sizes are working for you. Multicolored items. So again, if you had things that were separated by commas, you can see that she's about 50-50 split on things that are one color versus multicolor. And if you can get into the thing where if you're looking for certain colors that might sell better than others, or do I sell, it seems like I'm selling a lot of black things, the standard type of stuff, you can take your data and strip out and find things that have at least, that are black or have a black color in them, as one of the two. And then what are the average prices per item? So again, splitting up the breakdown into the individual categories and to see if you sell more of a particular size. So that's really what we've shown you today. I have one more tab that we've been working on, because a lot of the questions that I've seen and Rebecca will ask, and when you're going to your Goodwill or your favorite shops that you like to shop and you do your videos, is like, what are typically things selling for? Or if I look at my sales, am I selling, kind of what other people are doing right now? So again, this is the original spreadsheet. What I did was I created a couple columns here. Again, we can show you how to do this in the data course, and so I colored them purple. And these are ways that we can look up these items in this last column, and I called it an item finder. And so if you highlight on this particular row, you're gonna see a very long formula. You don't have to know what this is and what it means, but what it allows us to do is to pick up those particular items. So let's, what were you doing the other day? I think I did some at the bottom, so I have click me highlighted. If we click it, it'll come up with a little URL. We'll open that up, and what it does, it will jump right to the Poshmark website with those particular items selected for you. So the sizes, if it was are these standard sizes?
Yes.
Yes. So they will come up there for you magically without you having to go down to sizes and actually select them.
Ooh, that's pretty.
So, of course, that's what your eyes go to. But that would say, okay, I went to my Anthropology, I went to see what I sold my items for, so these are addresses of those particular sizes. So you can really quickly check without having to go to the site, type in your listing, type in your sizes, and we're able to do this even by subcategory and color. But for right now, we kept it as just a couple columns. So let me go back to my original list. And so I think I highlighted this one. So there's a different one. Mostly just to show you that we're looking at sandals, a particular brand. These are Fry, and then they're size 8s. So this is a really quick way. And as you add more items, all we have to do is really drag down that formula, and you can start to look at your items really quickly to say, if I am at a place and I wanted to see if things were selling at the same price, this is how you could do that very quickly based off your sales report. So that's where the magic is. That's what we've been working on with the data course. We will be providing you with a lot of the detail behind how to do this yourself, providing you with a lot of the template spreadsheets that you see here, and videos and all kinds of fun stuff that we're preparing for you.
We'll go back and let's make sure we cover everything from the
numbers keynote. All right,
so we did that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You identified the flaws in the zip code and
the
colors
categories
and the categories. Did you talk about that with the charting?
That we looked through the
at
4
the
reports. Thanks
Okay.
for paying attention.
And your advanced tips with your
Yes.
clickable links and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. So we went through all these fun things.
Okay, so these are just a preliminary summary of the things that we added to the the sales and inventory data course that we created previously. So the new things that are going to be added are in detail the steps to get your sales data from Poshmark, how to load your data into Google Sheets, but a more detailed, lengthy, kind of nitty-gritty version, right, than what we just went over.
Yeah, all hands-on, all videos, so you can skip around to what you would really want to find out.
Okay. How to understand your report and fix those issues. So Aaron went over it on a surface level, but the goal is to get it, dialed down so you can actually figure it out yourself. Use your data to create reports. So Aaron will show you how to use those reports to show you what days you sold things on, like he said in the presentation about trends and what else can you think of for that?
Trends, things that you should be concentrating on, what your best brands are, what your again, the things that are selling very quickly for you, things that are selling very slowly for you, things that you might not have realized about your sales on Poshmark.
And what else will be in the course that we didn't cover today?
I think we're just getting more and more into the detail. You'll get into some of the calculations. We'll get into some of the Google reports, how to get around in that. And then the overall course has a lot more detail than just Poshmark.
Right.
And some of the other things that you might be interested in knowing.
Like my barcoding system, my inventory system, how I track all those things. So it really is a pretty comprehensive course. And the best thing about it is if you buy it now, then any future content we add, you won't ever pay anymore. So it's pay one price and get all the updates and anything else that goes along with that course for, the lifetime of the course. So if you use the coupon code POSH Workshop in that Teachable link, you can save 25% on the course. And that way you can get in and get started and hopefully make more money on Poshmark. Right?
That's the goal.
It's my goal.
It's everybody's goal.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to make less money on Poshmark.
Okay, so we'll leave everybody with what's a key takeaway or something that you found interesting or weird or you were surprised by when you started really looking into my reports? What's something that you're like, ooh, that's strange?
Well, there's things that sell
how much money I made and you don't know where it is.
That's not a Poshmark thing, really. Most of it is there's certain things that sell really well for you and certain things that you hang on to. So some of it is what's the psychology of holding on to something for more than a couple months?
Right.
That is, and then I'm enamored with how people price things. What the brands are. I don't know this world very well, so I was going through a lot of your stuff to say, how do you? Are there ways that you would initially know what to sell an item for? And so I think a lot of the things that hopefully will be coming out of not necessarily this course, but in future courses will be to find ways to do that better. To find if you're going to certain stores and you find a particular brand. Right. Is this worth my time? Because in the sales side, we know what you're selling it for. We want to be able to give you a good way to say, hey, I want to make $12 an item. I want to make $20 an item. I want to obviously make a profit on this, and I want to sell it within 30 days. That's where I think a lot of this, what I'm surprised is how unoptimized we are to do that right now. But that's part of just doing business, learning the business, and that's what we're trying to get out, help or to do with these courses, to help people to find out how to get all on their feet fast.
And if you're listening to this prior to August 21st, 2018, Aaron and I will both be attending the Poshmark live event in Washington, D.C., and I believe the CEO of Poshmark is going to be there. So if you talk to him or see him or meet him, what's one question you would ask him?
I'd ask them, I don't know what to ask him. I'd probably arm wrestle him.
Get out of here.
That's the first thing we do.
No.
Hey.
I don't think so. All right.
No, I would. Here's the other thing I'm amazed by, how much actually sells on there.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I would ask him. What was how do they measure success here? What is their, how
many bottles of champagne they pop at posh parties?
I doubt that's what he's really worried about. But the commissions I see are quite staggering. So what type of what expenses do they have?
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks for paying attention so well this one.
Well, thank you so much for doing this workshop with me. I really appreciate it. If you guys like the workshop, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to my video. Use the code POSH Workshop on the Teachable link for the course and save 25%. That is a lifetime course fee, so you can use it for whatever you want, self-paced, all that fun stuff. So thank you so much for watching, and we